All the content contained in this webcast is for informational purposes only. The investments and strategies contained in this webcast may not be suitable for you. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investment or trading decisions. Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Monday's morning premarketinfo.com, where we prepare you for the most important hour of the day, the first hour. Well, Dennis, we've got a nice 11-point range in the S&Ps right now, and we're currently stuck in the middle.
Yeah, we're stuck in the middle here, Joel. Actually, I came in here about 7 a.m. Eastern. We were up 6. We've given back some here, but Citigroup just reported. It's been a little wild ride in Citigroup. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay, yesterday's low was taken out. Friday's low, that weak close on Friday. We've penetrated that area, went down to 1360.50, got a nice bounce up here. Still got major resistance at the 1372.75 level. We haven't taken that out. And just kind of floating around mid-range, folks. So as long as we stay above this 1365 area, you have to have a little bit of a bullish slant this morning. Moving on, Dennis, earnings, Citigroup. How's that stock reacting in the pre-market?
Actually, right off the report, it sold off pretty heavily. Got down to as low as 32.65 in the pre-market. So just looking, it actually touched down right. 32.70 was the low from 4 trading sessions ago. So interesting, the low coincided with that. It rallied up a bit, sold back off, bounced off that level. Is actually trading higher now. 33.59, so it's rallied back quite a bit. If you're trading this thing today, obviously keep an eye on Friday's high at 34.66, because then you have Thursday's high a little bit above that, 34.87. I think that should provide you some pretty good resistance there, Joel.
Dennis, you don't even need me to do the show there.
I took your whole piece there on you, didn't I?
Well, the 4-day low there, we got a good bounce off that level. 32.70 was a low for a few days ago, and hit 32.65 in the pre-market. Boy, I tell you, this thing could just bounce around in between those levels. Definitely major resistance up there. Double top, 34.66 to 34.87. I guess I would just use this close, 33.41, as a swing number. And Dennis, just keep in mind, I mean, J.P. Morgan and Wells Fargo, they opened up down to flat a little bit and then got flossed. So we'll see if that bank mentality continues with the earnings on Citigroup. Let's touch on a few other financials. You think J.P. Morgan would get some kind of bounce with the SPOOs up here, nearly 3 points, Dennis, but it's only trading up 9 cents in the pre-market.
Yeah, not getting much bounce at all, probably because they had earnings on Friday. A lot of times you'll see a company, if it comes out prior and disappoints, and then another company in the same sector comes out and beats the next day, well, there's no really to get excited, oh, well, now JP Morgan's going to beat, because they've already reported. So I think that's why you don't see the sympathy move happen quite as often if the company has already reported, which it obviously did on Friday. Same story for Wells Fargo here. Not getting much of a lift in the pre-market whatsoever. It's up 7 cents, but the market is up in Citigroup starting to get a little bit of a lift. So it doesn't surprise me if these stocks are going to be quiet. But the Wells Fargo chart's interesting here, Joel. Just looking at it here, 32.85 low we had 4 trading sessions ago, 32.84 low on Friday. So that area is critical support to hold, Joel. If it takes that out, I don't know. You might be thinking about that 32 area.
Yeah, I was looking at that over the weekend for our weekly outlook, the old sitting on a cliff,
Right.
trading at 32.80, 32.85, very similar to the 4-day low in the Citigroup. Not getting a much bounce there, but hey, it's probably a low risk buy there. But below that level, I think things really open up, Dennis. 32, you could say, is psychological support, but there's really not a lot. There's a low that we had at 31.58. Remember, a few weeks ago, we were looking at that Bank America chart, and the way it just ripped through the 8s and then has come back to settle into that area. That's the same way I feel about the rest of this 32 handle in the Wells Fargo. Bank America, not getting a big boost off the Citigroup earnings. 850 is critical support in Bank America, Dennis.
Yeah, 850 is critical support here, Joel. We've obviously had a nice 2-day pop off that, but Friday's action was not good whatsoever, pulling back to 868 at 872 today. The 850 level could possibly come and play today if you do get a follow through and some sell off on Bank of America. But keep an eye on Citigroup. It'll probably lead a stock like Bank of America, not so much J.P. Morgan and Wells though, because they already reported. Goldman Sachs here, Joel, they report tomorrow, just sticking with our financial theme. It's up 20 cents in the pre-market, so it's getting a little lift, but man, it had a rough day on Friday.
Yeah, look at that 115. It looks like I'm almost looking at a weekly on this thing for the last 2 days. 115 to 120. Those are two levels that we've talked about quite a bit last week as support and resistance levels. That 115 seems to be holding up, Dennis. Probably some shorts trying to wiggle out of that position. But, just getting an overall perspective here, Dennis, on this Goldman Sachs, considering the kind of rally that the market has had since October. I mean, this thing was under $90, but here it is at 115. I mean, it looks like the luster's really come off this stock.
Yeah, it's definitely been in a sell-off here for the last month. Like financials, the whole March they had an incredible run, and then right towards the end of March and April, it's just been a disaster for the majority of the financial stocks. Goldman Sachs straight up and then straight back down to this whole support area. But we consolidated here in the whole month of February in this 112 to 115 area. So it starts to get back in there. You got to think there's going to be some support. But obviously, with earnings tomorrow, anything can happen off an earnings report. So if they disappoint, I'd expect support to be down there. There's a couple lows down there in the 111.40, 111.62 area. So if they do disappoint, maybe that'll find you some support. And if they go to rally, that 120 is pretty big here now, Joel.
Yeah, just finishing up on the financial sector, the J.P. Morgan. You did make mention of yesterday's low or Friday's low at 43.06. You also have the low from 5 days ago. 4 days ago. Boy, it's sticking with the 4-day low theme here in the banks. Yeah. 42.66. I mean, this is a kind of formation where you have a nice run up in the stock, Dennis. It pulls back, and if it really is to continue this bullish mode, it really needs to hang in here above this 42.65 level. Other stocks in the news. I mean, what would a show be without talking about Apple?
Yeah. Apple is always seems to be in the news here, Joel. But today, actually, stock is getting a little bit of a lift. It had a terrible day on Friday. It was down $17. It's up $3 today, getting a little bit of a bounce. You had a pretty bearish outlook for Apple in your weekly report there, Joel. You can see that up on the site. I don't know. What are you thinking there, Joel? Why so bearish on Apple?
No, Dennis, you're mistaking taking profits with being bearish. Okay. I mean, no one ever says, yeah, take a profit. This thing could go back down to 550, and I'm not making that kind of call. I just thought that 620 level just hung up there, Dennis. You could show our traders what we had. We had all that support in that area. Really nothing to support it in the 610 to 620 area. I feel the same way under 600, Dennis. The 590 handle, there's not a lot of support in there, and the 580 handle is not a lot of support.
So you get bearish if it gets under 600. That's what you're saying, then. Just to clarify.
Yep.
Because the overall tone there, you can misread that, and I think we had a couple comments coming back that are like, oh, you're getting all bearish Apple. We're not necessarily, and Joel isn't necessarily saying that. He's saying if it starts to break through that 600, there isn't much of 590, there isn't much of 580. There's a little bit there at that 578 level, but it could fall, 15 or 20 bucks in a hurry if it started to cut through the 600. That's what you're saying, right, Joel?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
okay. And so moving on to the yeah, hedging myself there. Moving on to the tech sector, we got some Beamer earnings coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, IBM is going to come out with earnings there tomorrow here, Joel. Interesting chart formation here, too. We've had 4 lows very, very close in the same area here. Go 4 days ago, 202.17. The next day was 202.45. The next day, 202.64. And the next day, 202.80. So they slowly started moving up these lows. lows, but not by much. So this whole 202 area is critical to hold. We start cutting through there, then you'd start talking about the 200. Stock's getting a lift in the pre-market here. I think somebody's getting a little bit excited though. 204.68 it went up to. I think that's just overdone. 204.14 was the last trade. I'd be shocked if this thing opens up, much over in the, much over. I'd be shocked if it opened over 204. I imagine it's going to open in the 203s, Joel.
Well, we talk about a lot about the volume in the facade that can be painted in the pre-market. I mean, you have the stock going up over $1.50, Dennis. To me, it looks like 1,500 to 2,000 shares.
Yeah.
So you don't have a lot moving this stock. You are moving into some resistance in the 204 handle. 204.65 was Friday's high. I'd use that as a swing number. But you're really getting some nice consolidation here ahead of earnings. And, IBM has been one stock that really has not disappointed the street in a long time.
204.15 bid right now, so it is getting a little bit of a lift still here in the pre-market. More shares trading up there, but again, I don't know if that's overdone. Other stocks here, there is one other one reporting we might as well just talk about. Coca-Cola, we talk about it quite a bit here, Joel, and it's reporting earnings tomorrow as well. What do you think of Coke?
72, Dennis. 72. Four lows between 71.82, 71.95. I guess you could call that whole area 71, major support. Looks like they've, choked out all the HFT guys that decided to hold on to that stock on that crazy day when it went up over 74. But you're getting some great consolidation here. Get a couple closes above 72 here. I think this stock has a chance to go back up. We can hold 72. Get a little breather at 71, but it will have 70 on the radar.
Yeah, just to reiterate, the 71.80 area here, Joel, I'm seeing some size form in there now as well. So on the buy side, that is. So looks like there is going to be probably some high frequency support here all around where these four lows are. If we started to cut through that low right there, 71.82, is that the low of the last 4 days? Yeah. 71.82. Yep. I'd say if we start cutting through there, then it starts to open up a bit. But sometimes these things can have those pre-earnings runs. People get excited going into an earnings report. Home Depot and Lowe's, Joel, getting upgraded to Piper Jaffray, both of them. What do you think of those?
Well, Dennis, stock making new 52-week highs. I mean, it's just been inching its way up here the entire year. Not a big fan of these large moves in the pre-market in stocks. You are getting not really monster volume associated with these moves. You're getting some volume. So I just would keep an eye. So far, the pre-market high has been 51.45. That's what we're trading at now. I would use that as a swing number, but I just don't think that these big, thick ones like this, they get these kind of moves in the overnight. Takes a lot of follow through to keep it going. Lows, same formation, trading up in the pre-market. I don't know. Is this even an all-time high in Lowe's?
I don't know.
No, it's not. No, going back to Lowe's, don't see major resistance until you get above the 32 handle, 32.53, but that's a little ways away. You got any size in the book at 32, Dennis?
Yeah, I do, Joel. I do. I actually see about 70,000 shares or so. Those high-frequency guys. We'll try to lean on that off the hop. With the upgrade today, 30 cents up, it's been trading a little bit down here in the pre-market. Wouldn't surprise me if you see it open a little bit under 32. The high-frequency guys try to, maybe try some shorts. But if that 32 goes, which I think it might, then, the stock could break out a little bit from there. So if I was short in this stock, I would not want to be short if it starts taking out the 32 area.
Yeah, 31.95 is where it's been topping out in the pre-market. It's been there was some nice prints a little bit lower at 31.67, but keep an eye on that 31.95 to 32 level. But Dennis, just going back to some of these other stocks, not necessarily the low in Home Depot because they're breaking out to new 52-week highs. But whether I was looking at the J.P. Morgan or the Coca-Cola or the Apple or even the Spoos for that matter, you're looking at the same thing. We've had the high, and now we've had a sell-off to area, and we're definitely forming support here. So, overall, there is support in the SPOOs here at the 1360 level. Stocks are coming down to major support levels. So if this is the rip-roaring bull that's going to take us to 15,000 at the end of the year, I really expect this area to hold and we get a big bounce out, from this level. If not, I think the correction's still on.
Yeah, well, that could be. You want to keep an eye on those lows that Joel's pointed out here for sure, especially in that Coke, man. Just going back to that one, there's 4 lows right in the whole same area. There was some size there. I mean, the setup there, we talk about setups every once in a while, and the setup there is huge for those high-frequency guys to probably be buyers in the 71, 80, 85 area, especially going into an earnings report tomorrow. I mean, if it cut through, and started trading 71, 75, I'd probably get out of the trade, think that and admit that I'm wrong. And that's the whole key, obviously. You want to know when to cut your losers, too. Just like if the SPOO start cutting through that 1360 low that it's made today, you probably don't want to be long either. So that's the whole key to trading, is just knowing where your out is. Coke's out is very well defined here for you with those 4 lows. It starts trading through there, you don't want to be long it. But off the hop, if it opens up in that area, maybe it gets a lift. So that's the whole key with trading. Speaking of stocks getting a lift, Joel, Caterpillar getting an upgrade at Bank America, and this stock's been on fire. It hit that 100 level back on Tuesday, cut through there just also slightly, and has bounced straight up for 4 trading sessions here, getting another $1.80 lift in the pre-market off a Bank America upgrade, coming into this whole 110 resistance area, a couple bucks away from there, but I think that's where it might be going. What do you think, Joel?
I think it's going to have some trouble at 108, Dennis.
You like the 108 resistance?
Yeah. 107.94 was the high on April 2nd. 108.09 was the high at on the 3rd of April. I think you're going to run into resistance there. If you can break through that level, sure, I'd look to run at 110. But you never know what's behind these upgrades or downgrades. But I'd keep a real close eye. I tell you, if I was long and I carried this over the weekend, and it had the week close that it did, I think you look at 108 and you got to be pretty happy to be getting out at that level.
Wow.
I'm sure the specialists that took home the MOC buy order, the sell orders took the other side, will be looking to dump at that level.
That's all I've really got for you to movers. At our 10:30 show today, we're going to do an earnings preview show for you this week. There's a lot of earnings, a lot of big names on the schedule there for this week. So we're going to do a little preview show for you at 10:30. But any closing comments for our opening here, Joel?
We had the Coke earnings coming out, Dennis. I mean, Coke is a steady stock, but I mean, are people all of a sudden going to start drinking more Coca-Cola? I mean, their earnings are going to be stable. They have their stable, group of products, and it's just not going to be a big mover, a big growth stock. I think that the highs are in these stocks for the long-term highs, and unless Coke comes out, I mean, they got their great products, but they're going to need something else to really make them bust out. Just want to close with this J&J, Dennis. We've been talking about this forever and a brother. It remains in the Big Ten. Had that trading range from 64 to 66, Dennis, and now we're cutting through. Any thoughts on J&J?
Well, 64, I think it's pretty defined range there from Friday, like the 64. We talked with the 64. It got up there Friday. That put a lid on it. I would definitely think you're going to get resistance. Probably the high-frequency guys lean on that whole area in the 63.90s. And if it started making new lows and cutting through that 63.54, I probably wouldn't want to be long it. I mean, you could try to play that range and maybe you get a similar range here today if we start to move up in the overall market, but if it started cutting through 63.50, I think 63 might be on the radar.
Okay, all right, that's our outlook for today, Monday. We'll be back with you at 10:30 with some earnings previews.